If you think corporations bought free speech before, now that they're human, they'll buy even more. Yeah, their money has free speech to me.
There's a burgeoning group of consumers who are going to be running businesses and are employees of business today, in the millennials, who are saying it's not enough. It's not enough for you to make profit. I need to understand what your purpose is. I need to understand how you're connected to community.
Hello, and welcome to the Alliance for Democracy's The Populist Dialogues. The Alliance for Democracy's mission is in part to establish a just society based on a sustainable and equitable society. I'm your host, David Delk.
We have a dream that one day all companies will compete not only to be the best in the world, but the best for the world. Others share this dream and have begun to turn the dream into a community. This community signed a declaration of interdependence and invited others to join them. Now more than 900 companies from 29 countries are turning our community into a global movement to redefine success in business. B corporations use the power of business to solve social and environmental problems. An eyewear company that disrupts an industry and serves the poor. A food service company that serves over 1 million meals to low-income public school students every week. A manufacturer that goes green and helps workers move from welfare to a career. An online bookseller that recycles used books and funds local libraries and global literacy. An outdoor apparel company that stewards the environment. An ice cream company that maintains its mission post-sale. B Corp is a certification that helps consumers identify these change makers, and investors make money and make a difference. As a community, we are passing laws across the country, creating a new kind of company that serves society and shareholders. We are leading a global movement of people using business as a force for good. Join us. Be the change.
We opened our show with a short video about B corporations. Joining us today to go more deeply into what B corporations are and how they create a more just society are our two guests, Brian Selzter, President and founder of Trilibrium CPAs and Business Advisors, and Sandra Morris, CEO and founder of Cafe Give Social. So welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, right. So first of all, let me just ask both of you how you got interested in forming B corporations, or the corporations that you have. Did you form them originally as B corporations?
Well, no, Cafe Give was not originally a B corporation. We started talking about, the three founders of Cafe Give started talking about Cafe Give probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And at the time, I was living in San Francisco and had the opportunity to meet with a few folks who were very involved in the B corporation movement. Their advice at the time was, hey, we're just getting started with this, you're just getting started, just go focus on your business, the right time will come. And it was actually this past year, in 2013, when the right time did come. We started, we always had this idea that we were a company that was really focused on community and focused on doing good things for the community. And at the beginning of the year, we decided we would just go look at the B Corporation activity again and make a decision about whether or not we thought we should join. And we started down that path in the beginning of 2013 and got our certification at the end of the year.
Okay. And how about you, Brian?
When I started my company in 2006, wrote the business plan in like 2005, 2006, B Corps were just kind of starting to be on the radar, and I knew about it. I wrote a business plan, would have probably written the same business plan regardless, which was triple bottom line focus. Trilibrium, my company name, is triple bottom line equilibrium. I thought it had to be a corporation when it first started, so I didn't initially start as a B Corp, but shortly thereafter I ran into the B Corp people at a convention. They're like, no, you don't have to be a corporation, and so helped to become certified and have been certified since '06, I believe.
Okay. And so what is involved in becoming certified?
Well, there were 2 steps for us. We there's an assessment that B Corporation, or B Labs, which is the one of the certifying organizations, publishes, and you can go through that. The organization itself was extremely supportive. There's a series of questions. I actually can't remember how many. I think quite a few, like over 100 questions, where you rank yourself on things like your environmental practices, your human resource hiring, and the processes that you have internally around people, and whether you treat them fairly and justly, and also about how you give back to your community. And there are also some basic operational types of questions within that survey. The survey is weighted based on where are the most important certification factors for becoming a B Corporation. And B Labs we were a little intimidated, I have to tell you, by the process, because as a smaller company with lots of things going on as a startup, it just felt overwhelming. However, once we got in touch with the B Lab folks, they were extremely helpful in taking us through the process and focusing us on the right areas. And we did identify places where we could improve our internal communications, our internal processes, and we learned a lot about ourselves by doing it. So that is, one step. The second step was going to our board of directors and shareholders and asking them to ratify a statement in our corporate charter that would identify that we would be measuring ourselves and measuring our strategy and taking the company forward with the principles of B Corporation in mind.
Okay.
The question again, the process. Yeah. The process, I'll start by saying I think what B Corporations are to business, LEED is to buildings. So it's measuring, there's certain things you kind of get points for, and if you get above a certain bar, you would qualify to be a B Corp. There's an online assessment at bcorporation.net. It's open to any business. It's free to take, and it's a great benchmarking tool regardless of what you do. As Sandra said, it has a number of questions. It would probably take somebody who's knowledgeable about the company, I would say, in the neighborhood of a half a day to a day to complete it in total. You don't have to do it in one sitting. Some of the questions are fairly easy, and just like you got out of it, we got out of it too when we first started. And I said '06 earlier, it was '08, I apologize for that. When we first went through it, we didn't have we weren't at a place where we had an employee handbook, so we didn't have a maternity policy, for instance. Just hadn't occurred to us. We were a couple young people, my age actually, I wasn't young. I'm not having any more kids, but it just wasn't on our radar, and it was an easy thing to think about, what would we do if somebody in our company had a child? And so we just created that. But this is kind of the way to improve through the process, and you get to benchmark yourself against other companies. Once you go through the process, you're either going to be above the line or below the line, and there are, as you said, Sandra, ways to improve your score going through it, because that's the real goal. How do we keep moving this community and businesses forward? And as the video said, we hope someday that all businesses are assessed and evaluated not just on how they do financially, but how they benefit the community.
As I recall, I'm going to say probably somewhere around 1920, there was a Supreme Court decision called Dodge versus, actually, I'm sorry, it was a Michigan Supreme Court decision called Dodge versus Ford that seemed to have established at that point that corporations existed for the sole purpose of enhancing shareholder value. And it would appear then that this is quite contrary to that.
Well, I think the great thing about what B Labs has done is they've put a stake in the ground and said, here's a way to look at yourself and to have your shareholders and your board of directors and key people in the company who are making a decision about why are you in existence, to create a benchmark that is established and that you can use in a very uniform way. So it doesn't become an arbitrary decision. It really is, you're looking at this saying, hey, to be a B Corporation, I need to score a certain amount on these types of things. And I can communicate with my shareholders and my board of directors, and even to consumers, as you saw on the film. I can communicate what that means. And it isn't arbitrary, and I'm not making it up. And it is something that I can be held accountable for, just like I can be held accountable for revenues or for operating margin or more traditional ways of looking at businesses. So I think that's the fantastic thing that this organization has given us all, is the ability to take some of those, what would normally be seen as softer types of metrics, and putting real structure around them so that we can be held accountable. And then as business people, we're used to be held accountable. We love that, right? Because we want to be best. When we got our score, we were like, what's our score? How do we compare to others? That's what we want. We want to be good at what we're doing. And so it gives us the ability to do that.
Yeah. And I would suggest that probably not all businesses want to be held accountable, and because there's a lot of businesses that don't want to be transparent for one thing.
I understand. Yeah.
Right.
I would say also that the old paradigm of, when you think about people, planet, profit, the old paradigm was that you were pitting these against each other. If you wanted to maximize profit, you had to, screw people over, screw the environment over. And that still exists in some people's mind, in a lot of people's mind. They still teach it at a lot of business schools. But I don't believe that really exists. Even the worst company you can think of probably has to take some consideration of people, or they wouldn't work there. I think we're trying to bring it to a new level. And really, again, best in class is what I'd call B Corps. They're committed to it. It still can be a way to be profitable. It's just like that there's balance there. That if you're a successful company, how are you defining success? Is it just the bottom line for what the owners get, or is it your community, your stakeholders? That's community, employees, investors, and finding balance among those.
But I would add to that, just on the flip side, is that, I think the companies that are taking the lead on B Corporation and B Corp status today are somewhat taking a leadership position. And you don't see a lot of public companies doing this because it is more difficult. I think it would be a difficult thing to take out to shareholders and to be accountable for based on how markets work today. However, I think we can prove that this works and you can be profitable. And I can't wait for the first B Corporation to go public and say, hey, we did it. Now, it's not likely to be us. We're sort of not in that, that kind of a group. But we have some pretty big companies in Portland, like New Seasons, that have said, hey, I'm going to operate this way. And I'm going to be proud about it, and I'm also going to make money and be a successful company.
How large is this movement, both in Portland or Oregon or worldwide?
Well, the film just said 900 companies. It's been growing rapidly. If you go to the website today, it's 1,020 B Corporations, 34 countries, 60 industries, and it is growing quickly. There are about I know of three public companies that are B Corps: Ben & Jerry's, Capital Pacific Bank, I believe, and Patagonia may be a public company as well. It's harder for them, as you mentioned. Case law in the business world says, essentially, if you don't do everything to maximize shareholder value, you, as a board member, you have a fiduciary duty to do that. And if you don't do that, you could potentially be sued. That's been broadly interpreted, because if you just live by that, then anything a corporation did to do anything in the community, including sponsor an event for kids, could essentially come back and be sued for. So that's not actually there fully. But again, what goes into the bylaws here helps give fiduciary cover to the people on the board and officers of the company who might make decisions that could be deemed to not be solely in the shareholders' interest.
Yeah, I was before I retired, I worked in the office furniture business for many years, and our chief supplier was a large Michigan company called Herman Miller, and they did a lot of things that would probably fit into classifying them as a B corporation. I would think, but they always justified everything they did in terms of their bottom line. They always justified doing environmental things as returning greater value to their shareholders. Which always rankled me, in part because I always felt like, well, whether it was good for the bottom line and for their shareholders, I should be doing it anyway. So this provides a way for them to actually do it another way.
And I think there's a burgeoning group of consumers who are going to be running businesses and are employees of business today, in the millennials, who are saying, it's not enough. It's not enough for you to make profit. I need to understand what your purpose is. I need to understand how you're connected to community. And as that group grows and as B corporations grow, it could be, you know, a great thing happening, right? Which is consumers and consumers who are business people, or consumers who in their home life start making choices based on this idea of how a company presents itself into the universe and into the world, and how it behaves as an entity. And that's just as important in terms of making a purchase as, you know, other parts of the company. And you know, as that grows and comes together and, you know, explodes on the scene, I think it'll be less difficult for companies to make these kinds of decisions. Because it won't affect their bottom line to make these decisions. In fact, it will vastly improve it. As people say, I want fair trade coffee. I want fair trade foods. You know, I want to know that I have a choice. I can buy glasses that will provide a pair for a kid in a developing country, or I can just, you know, buy these. Which one will I choose?
Gen Y, I'm a business consultant, and one thing most people don't think about when they're making these kind of decisions, and I think of a lot of business leaders who may not even be aware of this, is your Gen Y employees. They care deeply about this issue. Yes, they need a job, they'll go work anywhere, but their loyalty is to companies that have these kind of values, that are making a difference. Everybody's got to pay the rent in our society, and you go take a job, but at the end of the day, is there any loyalty? Do you care? Are you invested in that company and its success? If it's just, hey, I'm XYZ Corporation, the answer is no. No loyalty. But you get a company that has a mission, has a purpose, deep loyalty from all parties, consumers, vendors, employees, and it is just a win-win. I really see this as a synergistic opportunity that companies that don't get it and aren't on board are, you know, going to be left behind. And it's a hard thing to try to change your company. You know, once you've kind of missed the train and missed the boat and been operating for 10 years or 20 years in an old way, it can be harder to make that change and shift. And to be authentic about it.
So talk about the difference between being a B corporation and being and getting a state certified public benefit corporation.
So benefit corporations at the state registration level is a new type of entity. Just as an LLC became a new type of entity in the 70s, which was a blend of a partnership and a corporation, a B Corp is somewhat of a blend of a corporation and a nonprofit. It did not exist 5 years ago anywhere in the United States. Since then, I think it's now in about 18 or 19 states, and B Lab has headed this up. B Lab's the nonprofit that certifies B corporations. So a lot of B's going on here, and I hope people can keep it straight. But the benefit legislation at the state level passed in one state, and it's now in Oregon, New York, California, Delaware is a big one. I forget all the states. You go in, and just like you would be an LLC, you can be a benefit corporation. The two are, you can be one or the other. You don't have to be both. Sandra's company is both. My company is just a B Corp, not a benefit corporation at the state level. We could do that, and the only reason we really haven't has been bandwidth issues in our small company to get down and get that done and just take care of things that haven't risen to the #1 priority.
Okay.
And there were 38. Oregon was the largest group. There was a group of 38 companies that became benefit companies all in one fell swoop. And the end of it was right over the Christmas holiday. So it was
January 1st.
It was January 1st.
Yeah.
Okay. I was out of town. I was actually in Hawaii, so I didn't come back to sign. But our CTO and another co-founder was there at the event that Kate Brown's office held in Oregon. There were 38 companies that came on stage with Kate and shook her hand, and it was a big deal for B Lab. It was the largest state yet.
Oh, okay. Right.
With the most companies signed up, which doesn't surprise me.
No, I'm not surprised either. With B Labs, I assume that there's some kind of recertification process or review or audits or something. How do we know over a period of time you actually are still doing this?
So you do have to recertify yourself by going through the actual process every 2 years. And there is also a random audit that they will do on about 20% of the companies. And
yeah, 10% annually, 20% in every 2-year cycle.
You're going to have the pleasure of going through the audit, right?
Our company's being audited this summer.
Okay.
And again, don't see that as, I don't want to make that seem, if there's business owners listening to this, as something that's a burdensome. It takes some time. But they're planning to spend about half an afternoon with us. They'll send out in advance what they want to look at. And it's really, that's just their opportunity to say, here's what you said in your report. We gave you enough points. Now we're going to check the actuality of it. When you send in and you do certify, you have to at that time upload information and reports as well. So it's not just, you checking the box, but there are some backup you supply at that time. But the field work will be a larger and more in-depth review of that. And then if you don't make it, if they come back and you said, hey, you did X and you're not right there, there's ways they want, there's ways that they help you get back into that. I'm not sure exactly what that would entail, and I'm not worried about us not being there, but that's, again, it's not like meant to be punitive. Although if you came, if you just checked all the boxes and didn't do anything, and they came out and saw that, they can quickly pull. Yeah.
So I'm going to interrupt you because we're at the end. And I have one more question I want to ask. If I'm just walking down the street, how can I tell if a corporation is a B corporation or not?
Well, at the end of the video, you saw that little logo that scrolled down.
The B.
The B. The circle. And I think that we have a very prominent logo wearer here. You'll see that logo on many of the materials around the company.
Oh, okay.
Their usually on their website, sometimes on a window, usually on marketing materials that go out.
All right.
If people go to the website, again, they can sort by location, they can sort by industry, and find a B Corp near them.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Pleasure.
Right. Our guest today has been Brian Selzter, President and founder of Trilibrium CPAs and Business Advisors, and Sandra Morris, CEO and founder of Cafe Give Social, both B certified corporations here in Portland. If you'd like to learn more about B corporations, visit this website, www.bcorporation.net. We're going to end our program today with a public service announcement co-produced by Jeff Holland and myself on behalf of Move to Amend.
This nation was conceived as a constitutional democracy.
We want democracy.
This means of, by, and for the people.
Every citizen, not just the fat cats.
Fairness. We just want fairness.
We don't have that.
Not even close. Wall Street, big business, the media.
Too much corruption. Our government belongs to us.
We need government to be honest and transparent.
Elected politicians are supposed to represent us.
Instead, they're stuffing their pockets big time.
Legalized bribery, that's what I call it.
Corporations and the wealthy use their money and influence to shape the world they want, without regulation, without taxation on them, without regard for the consequences of their actions.
Corruption is the illness. There is a cure. It's a constitutional amendment that says this: as a citizen, you have one vote. It does not give you the right to use your money to pervert our political process.
The constitutional amendment must also say this: Only flesh and blood human beings are people. Corporations are not people. They are accountable to the people and must earn the people's trust.
A group called Move to Amend has as its single mission the adoption of a new constitutional amendment.
A 28 amendment that says very specifically that money is not speech and corporations are not people.
A 28 amendment. That's what we need.
Whatever your cause, this is a big part of the solution.
It's going to happen.
Join us. Help to amend the Constitution.
If you care about the future, this is how you can make a difference.
We are Move to Amend.
We are Move to Amend.
We are Move to Amend.
We want a better world. This is how we make the difference.
Don't forget, you can watch Populist Dialogues on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and search for Populist Dialogues. Click on the result with the Statue of Liberty icon to view all of our shows and to subscribe. While you are there, click the subscribe button and we'll send you a notification each time a new Populist Dialogues program is uploaded. The mission of the Alliance for Democracy is to end corporate domination, establish true democracy, and create a just society based on a sustainable, equitable economy. To learn more, visit our national website at thealliancefordemocracy.org or our Portland website at afd-pdx.org. I want to thank our volunteers who donate their time to get our program on the air. So thank you to Roger Bates, Joan Horton, Janet Morris, and Tom Thomas. And to all of you watching, thank you. I hope that we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Bye.
If you think corporations bought free speech before, now that they're human, they'll buy even more. Yeah, their money has free speech, to me quite a shock. 'Cause I never heard my money talk. When a corporation has a colonoscopy, then I'll believe they're human like me.